Yeah, we're very pleased to have our own Hal Collier tonight to talk to us about ARES. I've known Hal for a number of years. Back in about '05, I became secretary of this organization, and I remained in that position for almost 6 years, thinking the only way I was going to get out was to die. And then Hal showed up and took over. That's probably one of the most thankless jobs in the whole place. Nobody knows you're there. We write the minutes up, we put them in, and nobody reads them. But I'm sure y'all read them here. I was telling Hal I had a friend who took minutes for an organization, and she would type them up and distribute them. She put it the next to the last line. If anybody reads this far, let me know and I'll give you $5. She said nobody ever collected. But we're very proud to have Hal Collier, who's the emergency coordinator, and he's going to tell us all about ARES. He said that he has a split personality, so he will be having some help.
All right, thank you very much, Randy, and to all of GARS for having us come and talk about ARES a little bit. GARS and Gwinnett ARES have always had a real close relationship. In fact, we do a lot of activities together, like Field Day and the Fuel Memorial Day Parade, and we hope people talk about deployable events. That's an ARES thing to keep your deployable status. Let's see, how many Gwinnett ARES members do we have in here? Okay, so a bunch of hands gone up. Do we have anybody from other ARES groups? No? How about people who used to be in ARES? All right, we'll give you all membership forms again. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So Gwinnett County is one of Georgia's largest and most active ARES organizations. Over 75 trained communicators serving our communities. So what is amateur radio emergency service? Basically, it consists of, this is the ARRL definition, consists of licensed amateurs who have voluntarily registered their qualifications and equipment with their local ARES leadership for communications duty and public service when disaster strikes. We'll do a real quick multiple choice test. The FCC gives us billions of dollars worth of frequency spectrum because A, they want us to rag chew, or B, they want us to be prepared for emergency communications. How many say A? A and B. Okay. That was a trick question. Yeah. But yeah, if you've ever watched the news about cellular phone companies and stuff that fight over spectrum, that's the stuff that we get for free. And the reason they do that is because, you know, what we do as a hobby, we can turn over and use for emergency communications when the excrement hits the rotary oscillator, as it's called. All right, there's an article I found talking about emergency communications is driving an increase in amateur radio operators. A lot of people out there that get into amateur radio because they're interested in helping the community. So that's where GARS and ARES both take part in that. You know, Field Day is a test of emergency communications. You know, we're setting up out in the middle of nowhere with generators and antennas in the trees and everything, just for that purpose, is to test our emergency communication skills. All right, so the main difference is that is the way the relationships that Gwinnett ARES has and the training that we do. We have direct relationships, and I'll get into more of this later, with a lot of the served agencies here in Gwinnett. So here's one of them. This is over at the EOC. For those of you who took your ham cram, you might recognize it. This is what it might look like during a Gwinnett County EOC activation. The top picture, those screens across the top, they populate those with you know, weather maps, with news reports, with I see road cameras on there, anything that they might need for situational awareness. The picture on the bottom is types of people that would be staffing the EOC. They usually bring in representatives from all the police departments in Gwinnett, from the fire department, from public health, Department of Water Resources, power companies, anybody who would have a stake in, what goes on during the disaster. And anybody that would have to coordinate with people outside to get, roads repaired or cleared or, any number of things. One of the things that we train on, how many of you are familiar with the incident command system? Okay, good. Basically what, as far as I remember, this came out of all the wildfires out west, where they would have fires that were so huge that they would need more than one fire department to come in and help. And what happens if everybody has a different structure, it doesn't build very easily. So federal government came up with the incident command system, which basically is a single command structure that everybody uses. That way when another fire department comes in or a search and rescue group or an ARES group, they fit into one of these squares. And they always go into the same square. So there's no confusion about what they're going to do when they get there. Some of the times that we've been over the EOC when we've been activated, we use what's called Web EOC. This is their online system where basically all of the people in the EOC are tied into this and a bunch of entities outside, and this is where they post things that are happening in school closings, power outages, roads blocked, and they can post them up to different levels so that the people that need to take care of them can actually respond to it. If you look down here towards the bottom, there's a resource request. Gwinnett ARES shows up in that. Our trailer shows up in there as a resource. Our communicators show up in there as a resource. That's basically the menu where you can get all sorts of different things. That's an event log that we had from one of our drills. That's where Gwinnett ARES would actually type in information, and we could raise it up to the county level, and it would pop up and be visible for everybody else that's out there, handling the event. Let's see, Gwinnett ARES supports permanent amateur radio stations installed at the EOC, Gwinnett hospitals, and the public health office supporting Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale counties. This is a picture of a dedicated room that we have over at the EOC/911 center, which is there for us to use. If we're not activated, sometimes people use it to take naps in during the activations. But when we're there, it's ours. Here's another picture. Since this picture, we've gotten some better computers and dual widescreen monitors for each of the stations. And then this is what we've got up on the roof of the EOC. We've got a HF antenna and a tri-band, a dual band, and room for some other stuff. So, that's one of the stations where we can go in, turn on the power supply, turn on the radios, and we're ready to support our emergency management here in Gwinnett. This is a map of some of the places we might deploy to. This is actually on the Gwinnett ARES website, but we've got police precincts, fire battalions, hospitals, public health, EOC, all sorts of different places where we might be asked to deploy during an activation. And by activation, whenever something happens here in Gwinnett, or when there's a possible weather situation coming into Gwinnett, they'll usually activate the EOC in a couple of different levels. Where they'll either have, an EMA person there, or they'll have, a little bit more staff, or they'll have everybody there. So they usually dictate, what level they open it up at. Okay, so I told you I'm kind of split personality, but what we're going to do is do a little tag team. I've got a good leadership team in Gwinnett ARES, and right now we're going to hand it over to Larry Whitehead, who is our AEC for Public Health, and basically works with public health and with the hospitals to handle emergency communications for them.
What's an AEC?
An AEC is an assistant emergency coordinator.
Thank
Hey, Hal. My name is Larry White, and I'm 84NX, and I work with the hospitals and the health department. So, what do? We use radios. Now, this presentation is actually designed for me to give to the leadership at Gwinnett Medical Center. I did change it some for you, but we have to review with them while we're there every once in a while, so I kind of used a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be presenting. We use radios, computers, and special software, and leveraging various frequencies, data modes, and techniques to provide vital communications when conventional communications are down due to any type of disaster. So it's a high emphasis on digital modes because in the hospital, a lot of what you need to pass information on is fairly complicated. The spelling is foreign to those that do it. You can only imagine what it would be like to try to name and spell drugs and get them right. We also provide communications between us and the EOC because they're part of the program as well. So, and I just wanted to touch base on the kind of people that we look for, and we look for this in all of areas, but particularly in a professional environment like a hospital, we're looking for people who have a sense of humility and realize that they are a team member, that they have dedication. If the hospital has a problem and they need us now. They can't wait. And we serve with professionalism because we are working with professionals. And so we need to be professional as well. We are no longer considered amateurs in the sense of amateur radio operators. So we serve the citizens of Gwinnett County. We consider service as a privilege. We must be very good at what we do because they depend on us. And because of that, we have to practice, practice, practice. And let me tell you, once a month is not enough. We have a monthly drill where we communicate with all the hospitals in the state that have radio resources. And it's a fairly involved drill, but it's really not enough. And we encourage our members to be involved in the state nets. We have a digital net on Sunday. We have actually 3 digital nets every Sunday. And we have a voice communication net. The other thing is that we ask our members to be involved in being an NCS with the NWS ARES Monday night net. It's absolutely essential that our members know how to speak and manage a net because they're going to have to do that. Let me move on here. Okay, the rationale for this, what we do, is based on new CMS guidelines requiring hospitals to have installed and immediately available a method of communication that is independent of the internet, cell phone towers, and power distribution network. We're very lucky in the hospital network that we have a very ready source of power because hospitals, that's their #1 concern is having electricity. So we have red plugs where we can plug our equipment in to. What they don't grasp until they experience it is what happens when the cell phone system gets overloaded. And they quickly realize that they need more bandwidth than they have, and that's where we come in. We are lucky that we are able to contact the EOC from each hospital directly without the use of any repeater or any line running between. We have several methods of doing that. Our repeater in GMC, the Gwinnett Medical Center, the D-Star repeater is right there, and even if the internet connection goes out, we still can use it to pass digital messages back and forth to the EOC and to each of the hospitals. So we are well equipped to assist the hospital system in meeting the CMS guidelines, which are here. I'm not going to read them, but we are directly listed as one of the resources that hospitals should look to in the event of loss of communications. So we're happy to serve in that role. The Georgia Areas Hospital Network works in cooperation with the Georgia Hospital Association, and we provide connectivity to the county MA, GMA, and the regional coordinating hospitals. Now, each region, we have several regions in Georgia, and I don't have the number on the top of my head, but we're in Region D, and it's a very large region with lots of hospitals in it. Our coordinating hospital is Grady Memorial Hospital, and we're able to talk to them directly from the top of our hospital. All hospitals are trained and registered with GHA 911 and are proficient in the use of WebEOC as a situational awareness tool. Just a little snapshot of what we do every day when once a month when we come up. We send somebody down to pick up the key, and we climb up to the top of the hospital where we have a tremendous advantage with the antenna structure up there. We can get out pretty much to every hospital in the area. And then we go up there, and the first thing we do is turn on our equipment, and then we get a copy of the WebEOC under GHA 911 and log in and register our availability. And we prepare a WinLink message on an ICS 213 form, and we send that to our leader, Brett Smith, who is the ASEC for Public Health in the state of Georgia. And Steve Jonas, K4SJ, runs a net on 30 Bravo on V-Star. We check into that at 2:30, and then somewhere around 3:15, we attempt to make a HF connection and check in on the net. Right now, the bands are not always that cooperative, although they're getting a little better, and we've had a lot of luck lately getting in just fine. We have a very good antenna system on top of the tower, which we've recently installed, and on the north tower. So all hospitals, operators receive training in HIPAA. That's a national standard for protection of patient data, and it's required that we all be trained in that. And the way to become a Hospital Areas member is to be registered with the GHA 911, and then take some training, be a member of Gwinnett ARES, and we can get you involved. So it's important to note that we too use the SDS protocol. We take orders from the EMA manager of the hospital. When we walk in the door, we are under their control. We are no longer direct members of Gwinnett ARES. We are then under their direct control, and we follow the rules of the FCC, but we provide communications based on their request. Our Gwinnett ARES Public Health served agencies and partners are Gwinnett Medical Center, Lawrenceville, Gwinnett Medical Center, Duluth, Eastside Medical Center, Gwinnett Newton Rockdale Public Health Strategic Stockpile Manager, who we have a relationship. The reason we're involved with the public health system is because this is the assigned manager of the stockpile for the state of Georgia. So we've had drills on that already. We've gone out, practiced mock delivery of antibiotics and such for emergency epidemics, and we hope to do more drilling with them. Of course, Gwinnett EMA is a vital partner. Whenever anything happens with the hospitals, we immediately open up the EMA, and we have immediate resources with them, and of course can contact all the partners in the area. Here's a little, you've already seen Hell's, we drew our own here, showing the locations. We cover most of the county, from GMC Duluth is the farthest to the west, and in the south is Snellville. And anyway, these sites are all directly contactable through direct means. Just to show you what we use to, we do conform to the ICS standards. This is a copy of our Incident Radio Communications Plan, ICS 205 form that I've filled out with our options. And so we do have a plan before we go in there. So just to give you a little history quickly of how we got started. When I took this job almost a year ago now, we were actually not active in any of the hospitals at that point. We had Snellville, the Eastside Medical Center had a station there, but nobody was really visiting on a regular basis. Gwinnett Medical Center had absolutely nothing, and Duluth was untried. So we spent about 30 man-hours really working hard getting in a temporary station at the trailers in the back of the hospital there, and you can see a little bit of our work here. We had a great team of workers who worked very hard to get this station in place, and we used that for several months. Here's a shout out to Paul Kelly, W4KLY, who helped us build 2 of these wonderful communications consoles that we can roll into the area we need them and lock them down and keep all of our equipment in good shape there. So thanks to Paul Kelly for that. So our biggest problem now, we have moved to the top of the hospital. We have all of our equipment up there and everything looks good, except we don't have a direct communication with the area near the EOC on the 2nd floor of GMC. So we are scheduling a meeting to meet with all the powers that be with the Gwinnett Medical System, and we are going to have all the decision makers present, and we're going to go ahead and get this problem solved. And our proposal has to do with internet connection from the top of the hospital down to the 2nd floor so that we can bridge that gap. We determined that running a cable that full distance was going to cost right at $10,000, so we elected to change over to the internet method for communication. We have a backup plan right now, which is that we can use either direct, we can use DRATs, we can also use the repeater if we lose internet connections, and we can establish a DRATs connection directly through the repeater. So we are operational in GMC, and we're moving, we're hoping to get Duluth on the air. We have everything bought for that project, spent a lot of money, the hospital spent money, and we're ready to go, and we're excited about getting that one on. We hope to do it in the next month or so. So here's a little copy of what we spent, which is not of that much interest, but this was designed to remind the served agency that they have put a lot into this already and that we're ready to finish the job for them.
They've got to know where to go to.
So this is our station at the top of the hospital there, and we had a great time putting that in. It looks great and works very well. So where we stand today is we have all the equipment for the installation of Duluth. We need the cable pulled. We have lots of volunteer hours in already, and all we need is them to go ahead and get that cable pulled, and we're ready to start immediately. We also have some issues with laptops, but I won't bore you with that problem. We have 8 qualified volunteers for hospital emergency communications. Our operators are eager to expand operations in the Duluth campus, and we hope at that point to expand to 12 fully qualified volunteers, and the reason for that is that it takes a lot of people to run an operation like this. Should we have a multi-institution problem, we can eat up volunteers pretty fast. So we've actually had 2 3-hour classes in digital skills, and we've got everybody up to speed on that, and that's looking good. This year we hope to accomplish, have Gwinnett Hospitals and Eastside Medical Center, which is not on the ARES right now as well because they have moved us. We hope to have all that done. We want to participate in the community drill with the hospitals and the GNR Health Department, and we're actively seeking to arrange for that. Like I said, we want to expand to 12 members. We want to assist in expanding our operations in Region D because we really need to have these other hospitals involved. And most of all, we want to become a premier hospital areas group in the state of Georgia, which I think we're fast approaching already. So here's our institutions as they stand today. This is the Gwinnett Medical Center over there. There's Duluth, Gwinnett. I think it does.
No, it's directional.
Oh,
You can't, yeah.
okay. So, and then, of course, the EOC is a very large part of our operation. So, that's it. Do we have any questions?
And from what you can see with the hospital stuff Larry was talking about, that's kind of a special interest group inside of ARES. They're training and things particular for that job, but they could also just as easily be at the EOC or in the ARES trailer or any of those other places. So, all right, let's move on. This is one of our little gems. I should have gotten John to come up here and talk about his baby, but this is the ARES communications trailer. How many of y'all have spent field day in the air conditioning doing 20-meter contacts? Okay. Yeah, this is version 2. So they learned a lot from the first one that was a retired Scientific Atlanta trailer that was in the field somewhere. They picked that up as the first one. And this is our second one. John Davis and Ryan did most of the inside work, and Paul Kelly again put his carpentry skills to work and built all these nice cabinets that you can see with the white faces on them. Makes it look a lot different from other people's communications trailer where stuff looks like it's straight from out of a kitchen. So, this is one of our another one of our permanent stations. It's just on wheels, but we've got capabilities of doing VHF and HF and UHF in both analog, DMR system fusion, and D-Star. We've got all the different digital modes short of PACTOR. And we can also do high-speed D-Star data links, which is we've used in the past. So, one of the other things that ARES specializes in is providing valuable, timely information on severe weather conditions and damage to Gwinnett EMA and to the National Weather Service through the SkyWARN program. And that leads me to my next person. Kyle, W4KDA, is our AEC for communications and over SkyWARN and that, things like that, along with Kevin, AK4WOG, who's helping him out now. So, come on up, Kyle.
All right. Good evening. I'm Kyle, W4KDA again. All right. What is SkyWARN? This is the official definition of what SkyWARN is according to the National Weather Service website. SkyWARN is a national network of volunteer service severe weather spotters. The spotters are trained by local National Weather Service forecast offices on how to spot severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, hails, and flooding. In some parts of the country, spotters are also report snowfall and ice accumulation. We have done that on occasion, but we rarely have that opportunity here. But ARES SkyWARN in Gwinnett, our mission is a little bit different perhaps. We run nets. This is our primary mission. We run nets during severe weather to get critical information to the National Weather Service. Sometimes we take that information, we push it out onto the ham radio bands, amateur radio bands. But typically what we're really doing is we're getting the information from Gwinnett and getting it back to the National Weather Service. We provide what they call ground truthing. So that's where you're verifying with your eyes that, yes, I see a funnel cloud has not touched the ground yet. There's a big difference in that versus a tornado which has touched the ground. Sometimes they'll send out questions. They'll say, do you have somebody in the area of 85 and Jimmy Carter who can tell us what's going on there? Because they see something on the radar, but they can't necessarily verify it. So what we're doing is we're providing that ground truth. Big thing there that I just mentioned was the radar aperture. They transmit this, I believe from Peachtree City is where our main radar site is. And they transmit it, and that radar aperture, it gets bigger and bigger the further it goes. And it bounces off stuff, and then it comes back. And so the further you are from Peachtree City, the less accurate it is, because that radar signal has gotten larger. And the Earth also curves, and so what they're trying to look at, they try to shoot straight at the horizon down there. Well, by the time they get here, they may be 3,000 feet up in the air. So the curvature of the Earth affects them as well as that radar aperture. So up here in Gwinnett County, we're far enough away that they really need us to tell them what's going on. We think that we see something in this area. Can you tell us what's actually going on there? We also help to get weather-related warnings out to potentially save lives. And Sandy did this one time. We had a little storm going. It was nothing big. National Weather Service said spotter activation would not be necessary that night. And it was just really a nothing weather scenario. And a guy calls out, I don't even know who he was, on 2 meters and on 075. It says, is there a weather net going on? Because we've got severe hail coming down on Jimmy Carter Boulevard right now. Sandy said, well, we don't have a net, but I'll go ahead and take your report and get it to the National Weather Service. So she did that, and we started a net. And what was crazy was she was getting that stuff going, and the information starts coming across on, I happen to be looking at WSB. It was maybe 2 minutes. We went from that guy getting us, maybe it was 5 minutes, but it was fast. From that guy giving us, making the call on 075 to we had a banner coming across and they issued the warning, we started up our net, and potentially people were saved by that. So one of the great things, obviously, amateur radio works from remote locations. When the power's out, when cell and landlines are out, when the internet's out, the amateur radio still works. That's one of the reasons that amateur radio is such an important tool for SkyWARN. SkyWARN is made up of people who are not amateur radio operators. But for us in Gwinnett, we focus on the amateur radio operators, especially through ARES and our SkyWARN umbrella, if you will. So we're looking at those folks. Because when the weather gets really bad, all those things can go out. And we can still get the information back to the National Weather Service. Here's a thing to consider. Participating with SkyWARN allows you to participate in a public service. You probably don't have the equipment to go out and rehang wires during a disaster. You're not going to be cutting off gas mains and these kinds of things. There are not a lot of things that you can do to help out during a disaster, but you can help out with something like SkyWARN. So it is a method for you to actually take a hobby that you love and enjoy. You love talking on the radio, right? You can take that, turn it around, and say, now I'm actually doing a public service with this thing that I enjoy. And here's an interesting one. Here, I'm going to use this. Where's Russell? I'm going to use this, Russell. Russell donated this. Annette EMA, that's our emergency management agency, gets data from our SkyWARN nets. So when we're activated, we turn the stuff in to National Weather Service. They are monitoring most of the time at Gwinnett EMA. But when we're really activated, we actually use that web EOC that Hal showed in his presentation. They will actually, we will take our reports, we will put those into web EOC, and everybody that's an interested party in the Emergency Management Agency will get the data. So when Bill, WB4 WTM, where is he? There he is. He says, hey, there are these power wires down on this such and such road. And I took that report, I shoved it into WebEOC, and immediately people in the county were starting to scramble to go to that location to take care of that, because they knew immediately we were able to get right, cut through all the stuff and get the information right to the people who needed it. So it's important. We have a great relationship with Gwinnett EMA, and it's really nice that they actually monitor what we do on this stuff. So who can report? I've talked about SkyWARN, excuse me, SkyWARN and Storm Spotters, but everybody in this room, if you've got a license, one that has a U.S. call sign, I suppose. Your VK would probably work, I suppose. By the time we have the next storm, you'll have your call sign. So you can report, even if you're not a trained storm spotter. We will still accept those reports from you. But we do ask that you please listen carefully to the NCS, that's the Net Control Station, and follow their instructions carefully. Things change dynamically. It's tough for the NCS to operate sometimes. You need to listen to what they're saying, because they're going to tell you what they need and how to present it to them in a lot of cases. So follow the NCS's instructions. Remember to speak clearly, slowly, and the most important thing, excuse me, is to be brief. I was trying to make a report one time early when we first got our call signs. And we were trying to make a report, a funnel cloud formed, and it touched down, and it was small. Not even an EF0, I mean it was like an EF-1, but it touched the ground, right? And we thought, hey, this needs to get back to the folks at the National Weather Service. And I think Jan was running the net that night, K2HJ, he's SK now. And he was running the net, and there was somebody in there, and the person that was talking to him was saying, yeah, well, we really don't have any weather in the county. I've got blue skies, and this guy just talked on and on. I thought the repeater was going to time out on him. But meanwhile, our tornado that actually touched down disappeared, vaporized, and went away. And we said, well, finally, you know what? There's no need in putting that in now. Well, nowadays I actually know that the National Weather Service would have liked to have known that. But my point is to be brief, because even though you don't have something happening in your part of the county, Gwinnett County is a very large county, geographically speaking. And even though you may not have something in, say, Decula, over in Norcross, it could be tearing roofs off. So if you've got something, say it quickly. Even if you are in a situation where you do need to report, hey, we have severe road ponding at 316 and Hurricane Shoals Road, and we need PD on the scene or something like that. Get that information out, and then hand it back to net control. Don't just keep going on and, hey, there are these cars stalled out and we've had an accident, all this stuff, unless that's important to actually for them to know. But just try to be brief. Say what you need to say and get on with it. When you're making a weather report, all reports must be firsthand. That means that you saw it, not my daughter was texting with her friend, and her friend said over on 85 that there are some power lines down, because that's no longer first-hand report. They will not accept that.
What about if it was on WSB TV?
Don't report what you heard elsewhere. I have run a lot of SkyWARN nets, and I cannot tell you how many times I've had an intelligent ham radio operator come on there and tell me, Glenn Burns said that such and such is happening, and you say, okay, thank you for the report, and you try to move right on, because you need to be brief in case there's a real report coming in. So yeah, by the way, I didn't put something in on this, but if police or fire are already on scene, blue lights, red lights are already flashing, there's no need to report it, unless you just want to, unless there's a lull in the net and you just want to get that information out to other ham radio operators. The National Weather Service, the EOC, the EMA does not need to know that, because PD or fire department's already on scene. Okay, reports must meet the SkyWARN net control station's reportable criteria. You're going to hear that a lot on a SkyWARN net. And sometimes I think that scares folks in this room who maybe are not SkyWARN operators, trained spotters. Maybe that scares you away. You shouldn't be scared away. All that means is listen to what the reportable criteria are. the SkyWARN Net Control will tell you what he or she wants to know as their reportable criteria. Excuse me, listen during the event, because those reportable criteria may actually change. At the beginning of the event, what always starts a SkyWARN net, the National Weather Service wants to know if there's hail. Because if there's hail, that is an indicator on the ground of something severe going on up above you. So if you have hail, they used to have different sizes and stuff. Now they say if there's hail. Even if it's pea-size hail, they want to know at the beginning of the storm. But as the event progresses, they already know there's hail. They know there's hail. We've determined that all this is actually hail formation. We have the right conditions for severe weather. They don't need to know whether there's pea-sized hail everywhere. Now they may move it to nickel size, dime size. They may go up to, we don't want to know anything until it's quarter size. They may actually even tell us, don't tell us hail, just tell us if there's damage. So listen to what the net control station tells you on the reportable criteria. Again, listen and be brief. Other people's lives may depend on you being brief. Our SkyWARN net control stations have what we call our net control quick reference. We sometimes call it our one-pager. You may hear some SkyWARN guys talk about their one-pager. This is just the top little piece of it, just a section of it. But everybody who's a SkyWARN net control operator should have this. And these are some of the things that we look for. These are our normal reportable criteria. So hail. Rain, but only if it's in excess of 4 inches per hour. So that's an inch in 15 minutes. That causes flooding and ponding. So that is a lot of rain. So we get people saying, oh yeah, well I've had an inch of rain in the last hour. Okay, thanks for the report. It's interesting for those of us who really enjoy weather, like me. But we don't send that to the National Weather Service. Lightning. Boy, we get a lot of people that want to report lightning. And the lightning is really, really bright. I actually had somebody tell me that, not David, I'm pointing at him, but I've actually had somebody tell me this was the brightest lightning he had ever seen in his life. It doesn't matter. They only want to know lightning if there's damage. So if it caused a tree to catch on fire, a building, if it took out power lines or lights, or maybe lit a power pole on fire or something like that. So lightning and thunder, don't care unless there's damage. Wind, in excess of 40 miles per hour only, because winds less than that, they really don't care about. At 40 miles an hour, an easy way to determine 40 is that's when leaves and limbs start becoming ripped from healthy trees. So if green leaves in the summer are being ripped off of healthy trees, you've reached that 40 mile per hour criteria. That's something the National Weather Service typically wants to know. All of these are subject to change during the event, but that's our general criteria. Here's an important thing for you to know, and this is a reminder for the net control station. All weather reports must have, in order to go in and be useful, who made the report. They want to know who this was, what incident occurred, where the incident happened, and when it happened. Now, sometimes it's not safe for you to report something during the event. Not uncommon. Take note of it when you come up from your basement or whatever, out of your closet. That's a different story altogether. It's a different presentation. But they want to know when it happened. So you're going to go back there and you're going to say that the leaves were being ripped from the trees. We had quarter-size hail, and it happened at 1640 hours. So that's important stuff. This stuff isn't as important for you guys or this. But here, this may be useful for you. Understanding when we start nets, because sometimes I get asked, why didn't we start a net? Or are we going to start a net? We start a net for weather warnings. So if there's a warning that has been issued, we are going to start a net. And I mean for Gwinnett. If there's hail in the area, if we have damaging winds. Those are our basic criteria. We're going to start a net for those things. If we also, there's more than this is the brief version. If there's a weather front that's coming across, and it's torn up Cherokee and Paulding, and it's coming across, and now it's getting toward Fulton, we're going to go ahead and start up our net. We're going to get prepared, get our net control stations in order. We're going to go ahead and get that net started because we know this is coming. But in general, just to start a net out of the blue, these are the basic things. We do not start nets, even if there's really bright lightning. We don't start them for rain unless it starts getting up into this report area, or events that are well outside our area. So if there's a problem down in Noonan, we're not going to start a net up here just because the sky is dark. And finally, we stop the net once the front is passed and the county, Gwinnett County, is no longer in danger. So when that front passes past there, we're going to start asking, does anybody have any reports that they need to get in? Because now they're coming out of the basement or whatever, and we can go ahead and take those reports, get them into the National Weather Service, and move on from there. And that's also when people start going outside, maybe seeing damage, and we need to get that into Gwinnett EMA. So if you're interested, if you maybe this teased you a little bit and you're thinking about doing this or maybe becoming a little bit more active, we encourage you to join ARES. Become a severe weather storm spotter. They put on those classes from time to time. If you follow our ARES Facebook page, our website, or our Yahoo groups, we usually put on when the storm spotter training classes are. We use Yahoo at ARES still. That's really interesting stuff to learn and to know. And then if you want to take it a step further, do some training to be a SkyWARN net control station. It's the most exciting, it's very rewarding, but it's the most exciting net controls that you'll ever run because you can't script it. You really have to play it by ear. We'll help you out if you want to learn how to do that. We will certainly train you and teach you how to do that. So does anybody have any questions about SkyWARN? Excellent. Norm, yes.
All right, I live in Norcross.
Yes, you do.
NCS control is the NCS is usually up in Beaufort or somewhere up in that area. As soon as they see sunlight, they close down the net, and we're still got heavy rain, lightning, and winds.
And bright lightning.
What we try to do, we try to watch the radar images to know when the county is no longer in jeopardy, and also nowadays we're trying to make it to where we use our net control stations, our net control and our ANCS, or our net control and maybe a backup net control. And the ANCS can maybe be close, but what we try to do is we try to spread our people out around the county. So if it looks like it's bad down in Norcross, we want to run that up in Beaufort, like you said, or Duluth or Lawrenceville, and vice versa. If it's just killing us up north, then we're going to try to run somebody in the south. We can also move back and forth. Somebody over in maybe Decula or something like that can take the net for a while when we're getting hammered on the west side of the county, and then we can hand that off once the storm front is passed. But we just try to play that by ear, but you're right. It's a volunteer network, and we try to spread it out and do the best we can.
Another thing, NCS is generally a person, I guess, and then he's got maybe an assistant or something, but you can't be on the radio and the telephone and the computer all at the same time. Do you usually recommend that there's one person that actually turns in the reports and another person takes them?
Yes. Okay, so we always get an NWS liaison nowadays. And so that takes that pressure off the net control station. Right about here, which is the next thing that got cut off because I didn't think it was important for this presentation, the first rule of being an NCS is get an ANCS because your station can disappear. The second rule is get an NWS liaison. And if any of you in here want to help out as an NWS liaison, you can do that. If our EOC is activated, we're going to report directly through there, and there are only a few people in this room or in ARES who can do that. But if you can't, then we usually have Hal, John Davis, myself, and now Neil is also doing that. So we can report directly through this system. But we get past that little group of folks because that little group of folks isn't always available, you can use tinyurl.com, ATLWX report, and you can actually send in a report for us. You can also call it into the 800 number, or you can use Twitter on the pound sign, GAWX. It's not a hashtag. Yes, Paul?
Kyle, it's, known in previous events here, there's been a linking together of the different, I guess, SkyWARN nets around the state and all. How is all that coordinated? Or
Okay, Paul's asking about linking of repeaters for SkyWARN nets. And several repeaters are linked together. We may go so far as to say many. And typically they go in through the main repeater on that is the 146820 repeater in Atlanta. And they typically link together a larger area of North Georgia. And they take reports from all over North Georgia. What we do in Gwinnett ARES and with Gwinnett SkyWARN is we concentrate on Gwinnett County only. So we're looking at our borders. If somebody wants to report something and they're on the border, they're in Johns Creek in Forsyth County, we'll go ahead and take that. But our main purview is Gwinnett County. That's what we keep our stuff to. That gives us a nice tight area. And we don't link in with the one that's the whole state, because something that's going on in Monroe or Habersham really doesn't affect us, and we don't tie up our equipment for stuff that's really well outside of our area. Any other questions? Mike?
It is handy when 442-100 is linked, because in Norcross, that's the only handy-talkie coverage that I have.
Okay. Now, I don't even know the status of our linking between repeaters at this point. That's maybe a different presentation. Mike's talking about when 442-100 was linked to 075. We used to be able to do that easily. I don't know, can we do that easily right now, David?
Not easy from Snellville.
Not easy from Snellville, right?
Or
Okay.
Lanier Mountain.
Right, so, but one thing I will mention is that we're pushing this a lot in ARES, is that if 075 goes down for any reason, if it's just down, issues with the power amplifier, interference or whatever, our go-to repeater is 442-100. So, if you think that SkyWARN should be running right now, and you don't hear anything on 075, jump over to 442-100, because that repeater's got great coverage for our county. That's our go-to repeater for our backup. But sorry, Mike, it's not linked in right now for SkyWARN. Dave?
What's the third repeater then?
I'd have to look at my list, to be honest with you. What's our third repeater, David?
Big one.
Okay. 2245. Anyway, okay, any other repeater? I mean, other repeaters. Does anybody have any other repeaters? I need to go move on, they're telling me. Okay. Thank you. I'll pass it back to Hal.
Let's keep on going. Okay. I guess one of the things, training related, Gwinnett ARES members take time to learn the National Incident Management System, which is pretty much the same thing as the ICS Incident Command System. And we also work a lot with digital nodes and things. If you want to learn those, Bill's going to be doing those at QSO Party this coming weekend. Got his hat going like that.
Is this weekend a deployable event?
Georgia QSO Party is a ARES deployable event if you help set up or if you operate. If you come to eat, no. If you eat also, that's fine. Okay. Some of the things we've, some of the drills and exercises we've done in the past. I'll talk about this one real quick. See the guy sitting in the plane? So one of our SETs, we did live pictures for emergency management agency. This was something new for them, because usually they might get some aerial pictures, but they'd have to land and drive the card back to EMA in a car and drop it off, and then they plug it into a computer, then they could see, aerial damage estimates and things like that. This one of our members would actually take the photograph from the plane, take the card out, put it in his computer, and transmit the picture digitally over high-speed D-Star, and then EMA would be able to pull it while the plane was still up in the air. So if I remember correctly, they were pretty impressed with that, right, John? Yeah. For those of you who don't know, John was my predecessor in Gwinnett ARES, so y'all have a real gem here as far as president now. So. All right, another thing we do for training is what we call deployment day. It's kind of like field day without the contacts. We just get out in a park somewhere. Usually we'll practice putting up different types of antennas. We'll bring the trailer out and do training on trailer setup and breakdown. And this particular one right here was, I think you were leading this one, Kyle, and that was an FL Digi training class in the great outdoors. All right, next, we're going to get David up here. And he's our new AEC for training. So,
ARES training, what is it? This is by the ARL. You'll notice the red lettering in the words there. Catch those sentences. Desire to participate fully in ARES. Training is required. Now, if you're not trained, we have an emergency. 70 people that's trained to do the job is not going to cover Gwinnett County operations for any length of time. We'll take your help. We'll train you on the job as we go. But we need that core. And where will volunteers be needed? You're working with government organizations, non-government organizations. To interface with these groups, you need to be trained. They call us, we serve their operations. EMA office, Red Cross hospitals, GEMA, FEMA, Weather Service. Training, training, training. What else can you say? Training. Everybody needs to be trained on either how to fill out the forms, how to be a net control, how to start a net. Training. Can't say enough. We cannot provide the service if we're not trained. And you perform how you train. Right? All right. What's the Atlanta Braves do? They go out for spring practice before they start playing. They train, train, and train. It can be fun. Well, they're winning right now. It can be fun. It's also where you can make mistakes. I've even made mistakes sometimes. No. Yeah. So, you know, but I try not to make the same one twice or in the same day. If you practice enough, you train, if you are in a situation, it feels like another training session. So it takes the butterflies out, you know. We're just going to go in here, we're going to bring up the radios, we're going to send these forms. So you got 10 people standing behind you, handing you forms that you got to type that information in on a laptop in the form and then transmit it by FL Digi or DRAPS or Winley, whatever. These PDFs right here are from the ARL. They'll give you information on ARES operations. Why the different training scenarios? Voice nets. You don't want to do digital? We need people to do voice nets. We need people to do digital nets. Each one has a place. Not digital voice. Digital is transmitting data or information, not using voice. Okay.
Do we use digital for weather nets?
Hints on what they want to know. Where it goes and who's calling it. That depends. We've never used any more, Kyle. We haven't used any of the digital modes in SkyWARN ever.
Some of the hurricane nets.
Hurricane nets, they may do that for the southeast. Okay. There's a lot of different nets. Some Southeast D-Star Net, Sunday nights, 2100 hours. They do D-Rats and they do D-Star Voice, okay? We have nets Monday nights. There's 2 FLDG nets, Central Georgia and what's the other district down there? I was just on them last night. But they run PSK 125, and I can monitor all their nets, check into those nets, and then at 9 o'clock, we ran our net last night that BLWR1TR ran last night. Good. Training. We'll train you. Need to be trained as NCS. It's not hard. Okay? We have a script, but sometimes the script doesn't work. But it'll give you an idea of how to do it. So that's the reason you need the training. Look at those words. Can you spell that word if you're on a voice net? If someone come up and told you amoxicillin, whatever that is, potassium. Yeah. So it's easier. If they come up and give it to you on a thumb drive, you can copy and paste into your
I've got a bottle
forms
with
you
each of
want to
those on
send.
my desk.
Say again?
I said, I've got a bottle with each of those on my desk.
Our served agencies expect us to move information or data by any means necessary to provide communications for them. That could be a voice net, it could be a digital net, moving data. And ARES, they use, we use FLDigi, or we use a DRATS, or we use WinLink, okay? Those 3 modes we can move the data or information throughout the county, throughout the state, and anywhere else that we need to move it. And this is why we train for these things. I don't know where that was located at on that tornado there. Our service organization, that is ARES. This is from our MOU thought I wrote it down. You don't have the split screen. My notes are not there. I think it was 2005 or 2002 or 2005. Stan Edwards and Ike, GAR's president at the time, came up with this MOU, not management, memorandum of operation, or understanding. There you go. So, and it recognizes ARES service organization and GAR's club activity and the responsibilities between the 2. So, yeah. You want to provide service? Come on over to ARES. We'll train you, and did I put it up? It's not in there. But GARs, we'll go out and have fun and eat a lot of food on that. So let's see. Did y'all get a chance to read through the red highlighted words? Is what I wanted to bring to your attention. Let's see. Okay, that's our website. You can go to GwinnettARES.org, see any information out there. And any questions? No questions. Okay. Training.
It's all about training.
It's all about the training. Yes, training. Okay. I'm through.
All right. Like you said, that's the big thing is the training. There's lots of everybody in here knows how to use a radio, which is good. Kind of like a hunter knows how to use a gun, but there's a difference between a hunter and a soldier. You know, being a soldier, you know how to use a gun, but you also know how to fit into the command structure and all sorts of other things. So, all right, I'll try and make it through the rest of this pretty quick. Some of these slides, most of you are familiar with the different digital modes. We use all these in ARES. They all have their different uses. DRATs you can use with TNCs or with D-Star or over high-speed multimedia. It just uses IP. We use ICS 213s and other ICS forms just like our served agencies do. That in itself is a whole bunch of training because there are lots of ICS forms and they're all made by somebody who didn't have anything better to do than design forms. So a lot of them are complicated and you gotta take a class on how to use the form. Here's RMS Express, which is one of the ways of sending WinLink messages. And FLDigi does a lot of different modes, and we can send 213s over any of those. All right, so one of the nice things about Gwinnett ARES and the way we work with the Emergency Management Office here in Gwinnett is they don't let us read through all their county plans. Most of y'all probably don't know about these, but they've spent hours and hours writing up operations plans for different scenarios that could happen here in Gwinnett. The one on the left is just a standard operating procedure, but the one on the right is for debris management. After an ice storm, you know, when they've got tons of trees down and they've got all that stuff, you know, what do they do with it? They've actually got a plan for picking all that stuff up, dumping it off at predefined county parks, depending on what the debris is. They've got all these forms you fill out based on whether there's any type of toxic stuff in there. We actually ran a training scenario one year where we were, that was our simulated emergency test. That's a drill we do once a year. And so that's what we did was simulate stations at county parks where we would have the trucks coming in and dropping stuff off. We'd have to take the information from the form, you know, put it into a digital format and send it back to EMA so they could track what was going where and how much was being dumped, and you know, they like tracking things like that. Some of the other things we've simulated, county radio system failure. You know, we don't expect this to happen anytime soon with John at the helm, but seeing as he's got to rely on Motorola for lots of things, it might. Nothing wrong with Motorola. Flooding. How many of y'all remember back in September 2009, where we had like 500-year floods here in Gwinnett? You know, places that had never been flooded before. You know, we had roads washed out and all sorts of stuff. This is another place where spotter, you know, the SkyWARN spotter stuff comes into play. You know, if you see a road that's washed out and there's no police car blocking it, you know, that's something that gets called in. You know, EMA finds out about it, they send somebody over there to go mark it so when it gets dark, people don't drive into it and die. Pandemic outbreak. That's actually from a movie, but we simulated Dustin Hoffman and Kevin Kline and somebody. But yeah, we simulated that one year. That we actually worked with Dorothy Juban when she was at New Rockdale Public Health. She was our subject matter expert, and so we actually simulated, you know, what types of locations would open up during some type of pandemic outbreak, whether they were pods, you know, points of dispensing for antibiotics or anything like that. And they've got other federal things they might bring in, like little federal hospital units where they bring in beds and stuff and set up in a basketball court or something in a high school. So, you know, we've simulated that. Again, this ice storm debris removal. Post-tornado sheltering, or basically any type of sheltering. You know, Gwinnett routinely opens up shelters when there's a hurricane, because you've got all sorts of people fleeing from Florida or anywhere else on the coast, and you know, they come inland and usually the hotels are gone and they need some place to stay. This is something where we, you know, we worked with public health and I guess, was it DHS? I forget who else, but the, yeah, Red Cross is involved too, but, you know, at the EOC as they bring their sheltering plans to bear. Chemical spills and resulting evacuations. We haven't had one of these, but we did simulate this one time. You know, we've got a lot of railroad tracks coming through Gwinnett, and trains can carry some nasty stuff. So that's what we simulated one time. Hurricane. This is an SCT we did right after Irma came through, so it was very applicable. If you remember, at one point Gwinnett was in the path of the hurricane before it veered into Alabama. So pretty much every county in Georgia was activated in some way, shape, or form. I was waiting to see if we'd get the first hurricane warning in Gwinnett, but I think it was only a tropical storm by the time we got here. All right, some of the other things that Gwinnett ARES does during the year, these match up a lot with GARS. Field Day, Memorial Day Parade, Stone Mountain Ham Fest, we bring our trailer out there for tours. Tech Fest, our trailer's out there too. And we also take our trailer out for JODA, the Boy Scout Jamboree on the Air. Some of the other events, I got some pictures for these. So Gwinnett Sheriff's Department Jailbreak Challenge, that's a fun one. We put our people around the course, and they have runners doing a 1.5 mile course, and then they go through a military-style obstacle course at the end. And so we put people around the course that'll call in if they need to send the paramedics out. Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Christmas Parade. Usually take the trailer down there to be a net control station. That's a fun one. We usually put people at the different parade float stations. I've gotten to, there are quite a few shadowing positions where basically you have a VIP that you just follow around and do the communications for them. I've gotten to do fun things like a guy named Hobie, he was one of the parade coordinators. I'd follow him around, and he turned to me one time, he's like, "Go stop the parade." I had to walk out in the middle of the road and go, "Okay, stop." This parade's a little bit different, they stop for commercial. So, Big Peach Sizzler 10K road race. Same deal, we put people along the course to make sure, to give status updates on how things are going. People riding in the pace car and the sag wagon. How many of y'all have done that before? I know Neil has, and got a lot of people that have worked that before. It's a good activity. Georgia Gwinnett College Public Safety Fair. We set up out there along with public health and police department, fire department, things like that for the college kids to come, see some options for volunteering and career possibilities. Even though, I think one time we had that open. One of the things that interested the kids the most was the solar panel I had that could charge their iPhone. So, but aside from that, we had some people that were interested in amateur radio. I think we went over some of this stuff. To join Gwinnett ARES, ARES members have to be licensed amateur radio operators. We've got an online application and an online skills test, which is kind of like a watered down EC001 from ARRL. Got to pass some FEMA courses that have to do with incident command systems, and then participating in NETS meetings and these deployable events that you've heard about. Our meetings are fourth Tuesday of the month at 7:30. I had a lot of SkyWARN questions. Kyle's doing the program in 2 weeks over at the EOC on SkyWARN and net control stuff. So if y'all want to learn some more about that, come on over. And you don't have to be a member of ARES to come, but we'll work on you and soon you will be. Weekly training net is 8:30, an hour after the GARS net on 075. And we also have digital training and or digital nets and HF nets every Monday before and after the ARES net. David had this up, GwinnettARES.org is the website. Gwinnett ARES Facebook page. Get information from there. And I think I took off the Yahoo group, but you can also get on there. If you're interested in ARES in general, just to see what kind of stuff goes on around the country, you can look in, there's the ARRL ARES e-letter. If you get onto if you're an ARRL member, you can get on there under your profile and put a little checkbox by that, and they'll send this to you. You can also look in your QST magazine. It's often got ARES or public service articles in there. Some of the other things that y'all might not know about is, Gwinnett ARES is just one of the volunteer groups here in the county, and we're all linked together through the Citizen Corps. How many of y'all have taken like CERT training? Okay, what about anybody in the Medical Reserve Corps? No? How about the Citizens Fire Academy or Citizens Police Academy? Got a few? Okay. Those are kind of sister agencies here. During an emergency, when EMA gets activated, these people will be called on to do all sorts of different things. You know, we'd be called on to work with CERT people. You know, Citizens Police Academy may be handling traffic coming to a point of dispensing so people can get their antibiotics, different things like that. But we'll all be kind of intertwined, and that's just within the county. Ares doesn't stop at the county border. We've got a national structure, you know, that's tied in with the ARRL. Most of y'all know each section in Georgia has a section manager, and then right under that they have a section emergency coordinator, and then they have a bunch of district emergency coordinators for different geographical groups of counties, and then of course each county has an emergency coordinator. So it is a large organization that seems to work together pretty well. This is the Georgia Ares website. They've got a lot of good information on there, especially about digital. We've got John to thank for that. He was the assistant section emergency coordinator for digital for quite a while, so he vamped up the digital on this website. Georgia Ares Mutual Assistance Team. This is one of the groups that you know, doesn't have counties as a border. Larry's very involved in this, and you know, basically what this is, it's a group that can help down at the GEMA State Operations Center when they run out of their small group that supports them. They can go to other counties to help out with hospitals when they're not staffed by their local Ares group. The local Ares group is too small. So there are lots of opportunities, and that's it.